So why is fragrance getting such a bad rap? Because it's really a top contact allergen. So many people are allergic to fragrance. And to be clear, it's not synthetic fragrance only, it's really even natural fragrance. So if you had lavender or roses or whatever that you grew yourself, truly organically, they're really as natural as you can get, they're still top contact allergens. Now, I'm going to use a metaphor that's not perfect because skin and other allergies don't often correlate, right? But imagine if you were allergic to peanuts or bee stings. It kind of doesn't matter how organic those things are. You should probably not get stung by a bee. Again, this is a very different thing. We have a great post on it on our blog, vmvinskin.com, about how different the modalities and systems and cells involved are between skin allergies and, say, dander, pollen, things like that. But the logic is kind of the same. If you patch test positive to fragrance, it doesn't matter how natural and organic that is. Part of the big reason, or a big reason behind why so many plants and flowers are allergenic is something called sesquiterpene lactones or terpenes, right? Terpenes are what give terpenes are a big reason for the natural aroma of many of plants. And sesquiterpene lactones and terpenes are on standard patch test trays. So is fragrance mix 1 and fragrance mix 2. Their top contact allergens are really well known to cause a lot of allergic reactions in the skin. Furthermore, they are top photo contact allergens or top photoallergens, which means that they react with light and tend to cause hyperpigmentation, dark spots on the skin. So if you are concerned about hyperpigmentation and melasma, you shouldn't be using, say, an anti-hyperpigmentation cream that smells good. Fragrance is a top contact allergen, and this includes aromatherapy, essential oils, all of that stuff. In addition, fragrances are airborne. In addition, fragrances can cause airborne contact dermatitis. So you don't even need to touch the stuff. You could be walking in a garden, and if you happen to be photoallergic or you happen to patch test positive to fragrance, you could start developing reactions on your skin just from the allergens wafting up onto your skin. And also you can develop hyperpigmentation, which is why we tend to see in our research clinic a lot of people who either farm or work in gardens or golf who have hyperpigmentation on the skin. There's lots of stuff you can do, of course. You can wear, we have a great product called Armada Post Procedure or Stay On Point. It's a really thick sunscreen that actually doubles as a physical barrier against allergens. So it's one of those really thick things that you put on your skin. It's great for face basting if you do that. What I tend to do is I'll put that on and then I'll put on virgin coconut oil to help spread it around a little. But that's sort of a nice physical barrier against fragrance allergens. You can also wear long shirts, head covers, especially if you garden a lot or happen to be in farming, or your job entails a lot of handling of plants and fragrances or perfumes, plants and flowers or actual perfumed products. That might help. The last thing to sort of say about, the other thing to underscore about fragrance is it doesn't have to smell good to be in a product, because there are such things called masking fragrances, which don't smell perfumey, but they mask the inherent fragrance or the inherent smell of a product. Most products coming out of the lab or the formula or coming out of the lab smell like the lab. Even a lot of sort of natural essences don't smell pretty. They smell labby. So for example, a lot of people will say that our toners smell like alcohol, and we're like, yeah, because we don't mask the fragrance. If you smell our products, they don't smell good, like perfumey, yummy, like a rose garden. They also don't smell nothing, because we don't use masking fragrances. They will smell exactly as they did when we were mixing them in the lab. We don't use masking fragrances because of the same problem. They're top contact allergens. The last thing I'm going to share today about fragrance to be wary of is they're not often listed as fragrance. Sometimes they're listed as parfum or something vague like that, maybe fragrance. Other times they'll be listed under things like benzoyl alcohol, cinnamic alcohol, which are related to fragrance, or flavors, right? Like mint, or yeah, mint. Which, so a lot of flavors are related to fragrance too. So sort of some common pitfalls. So yeah, at VMV we are really clear about 100% all types of fragrance free, meaning no masking fragrances either, and no flavors and things like that. But that's why fragrance, I think, is getting a lot of, finally, attention, because there are so many contact reactions that happen to it. And there are some systemic reactions as well, sort of, that can happen throughout the body. So definitely get a patch test. A skin patch test is different from a prick or scratch or rasp test. A skin patch test is a bunch of patches that go on your back for 2 to 3 days, and then they're read by a dermatologist to show which things you come in contact with that you shouldn't come in contact with, ideally. A photo patch test is similar, but for photo allergens. So if you have very stubborn melasma, you might want to look into that. And then a prick, scratch, or rasp test is more for things like dander, pollen, bee stings, and food. Some things will cross over, some like atopic dermatitis, dust mites, some protein allergies, some of those will cross over. But for the most part, let's say if you prick, rasp, or scratch test positive for an ingredient like coconut or almonds or something, unless you also patch test positive for that, you can probably use it on your skin. For fragrance, it's definitely worth getting a patch test, so you also don't avoid fragrance if you're fine with it. Like, I happen to love lavender, and I'm fine with lavender, so I love having it sometimes. Not a lot, because I get hyperpigmentation. But a patch test can really help guide you more specifically, so you're not unnecessarily avoiding things that you actually can use, and you're not using stuff incessantly thinking, because it says natural or whatever, that you're fine using it, when in fact it might actually contain one of your allergens. So there, be safe. Ask us more questions in the comments. I'll get to answering them. Thanks.